Good afternoon, Facebook land and District 73 and the people of Ohio. My name is Kim McCarthy. I am a candidate for state representative in District 73, which is pretty much the western part of Greene County, includes the cities of Yellow Springs, Fairborn, Beaver Creek, and Bellbrook, and the townships that surround those cities. So welcome to my live stream. I do these every Friday at noon as a way to help voters get to know who I am and what I stand for, as well as enable me to talk about the issues that you care about and to take questions. Though I must admit it's kind of hard for me to talk and do questions at the same time, but I'm not going via Zoom this time, so there isn't that large delay that happens when you do that. So I might have a better chance today. I just want to follow up on last week's event that we did before I start. That was the discussion regarding the energy biodigester. We had 3 different residents from Fairborn/Bath Township on, and I think we had a really good conversation. They got to put a lot of information out there, and we had a lot of views. Ultimately, a lot of people got to see that info, so we put links up to help you. I hope everyone was able to access those and find the information they need so that they can decide for themselves whether this is a good or bad thing for the community. I did also reach out on Tuesday and spoke with Township Trustee Pitstick, as well as someone at Renergy, and invited them to come on and do the same thing, basically, to share their side of the story and perhaps address a lot of the issues that were brought up last Friday. I have not heard back from Renergy. Mr. Pitstick told me he wanted to look at the video, which he is. He's actually out of town. He did say his first inclination was that he would not do it, but he has not said that definitively yet. So I'm hoping when he gets back into town next week, he will reach out to me and perhaps he will come on. So, all right, so moving on to the topic of the day. So, of course, the huge corruption scandal is the topic of the moment for sure. And frankly, it's not something I want to be talking about. When I envisioned running for state representative, I envisioned a campaign where we would get to talk about the issues that we face and discuss solutions to those issues. And my opponent would put forward his point of view on things, and we could have a debate and people could see, all right, this is what she thinks, this is what he thinks. This is good information so I can make an informed choice on who I want to vote for. But it has not been that at all. My opponent, Brian Lampton, has been devoid of any sort of stances on any kind of economic policy. And of course now it turns out that he is deeply involved in this huge corruption scandal that was just revealed to us last week. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. In case you haven't heard the news, Larry Householder, the Speaker of the House, the highest ranking Republican in the House of Representatives, was indicted formally yesterday, actually, by the federal government for racketeering, bribery, money laundering, a whole litany of crimes against the people of this state. So all of this corruption revolved around the passing of a bill called HB 6, which was basically a taxpayer bailout of failing nuclear and coal-fired plants owned by a company called First Energy. So they were referred to as Company A in this indictment. So First Energy bribed elected officials, basically Larry Householder, who then built up what he called Team Householder around him. Passing this bill to get $1 billion of taxpayer dollars being funneled to First Energy in a beautiful form of corporate welfare at its finest was not the only aim of this corrupt scheme. It was also to secure Larry Householder's position and power in state government in Ohio. So to that end, he was using the money that First Energy were giving him to secure spots for other candidates. And that's where my opponent comes in. He was handpicked by Larry Householder to get into Columbus in November and basically become a yes man, a rubber stamper, if you will. So that is completely disturbing to me, as it should be to you. We do not need corruption in our government, obviously. So there's basically, well, actually, before I move on, let's just talk about what happened. So, he was indicted yesterday. The House voted to remove him as the Speaker of the House unanimously, thank gosh, yesterday. So he is no longer the Speaker. They did appoint Bob Cupp to be his replacement. But the other big issue that happened yesterday was that they do have the authority to remove Householder from his state representative seat. And that they chose to not do. So he is still a state representative. He is running unopposed in November. So obviously that means he has another 2 years to go after this year. So why the Republicans did not vote to discuss the removal of him from the state legislature is mind-blowing. And obviously, if I was in Columbus, I would be voting to have him removed, just for the record. So that's where the situation's at. So let's just talk about why Brian Lampton is in so deep with this situation. He has 3 different connections to this scam. And I did draw up a nifty little whiteboard, ta-da, with things. I'll put it back up in a second. It's kind of a little annoying to kind of hold it up here. Oh, maybe that will work. So basically, there's 3 ways that he is connected. Firstly, he accepted campaign contributions from not only Larry Householder, but other entities and people indicted in this corruption scam. So $32,000 in total. He took $13,292, which is the maximum amount that any one entity can contribute to a candidate in any cycle. He got that from Larry Householder. He took $1,000 from First Energy, which is the briber of the person who basically made this scheme come to life, or it's an entity, not a person. He also got $13,000 from the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 18. Now, this is a union that employs the engineers that work at these nuclear power plants. So that's where their involvement comes in. They want these power plants to be up and operating, obviously. So they have a political arm called Political Education Patents. So the union and this Political Education Patents both gave him $6,500. So they have been, they're one of the main funders of Generation Now, which is the PAC that has also been charged with corruption in this scandal. He also got another $5,000 from the Majority Whip, Jay Edwards. And again, he is, in it with Larry Householder. He too was part of this whole criminal conspiracy that was going on. So all of that money totals $32,000. So if Mr. Lampton wants to get rid of the money, the dirty money that he's taken, the 13 grand is not enough. It's $32,000 of dirty money that's involved in this scam. So that's the first thing. The second thing is he hired a company called Constant Content to basically manage his campaign and produce his media portion of the campaign. So that company is owned by Jeffrey Longstreth. Jeffrey Longstreth is one of the co-conspirators in this corruption campaign. He is also indicted by the federal government. So $55,000 of the 32 that he received from the corrupted people was spent back with Jeffrey Longstreth. So that campaign produced a whole lot of, well, I'll show you, a whole lot of mailers for him. He actually spent, $55,000 on mailers, basically. So if you had run any kind of campaign, you would know that when you're developing these mailers, you are in constant contact with constant content in order to develop the the mailers, the message, what you want to say. So it's hard to accept that Brian Lampton doesn't know who Jeffrey Longstreth is, and that there wasn't an understanding or some kind of hint that he was being helped for reasons other than the obvious ones. So $55,000 he spent. It was his largest expense of his campaign by far. And then the third component that ties Brian Lampton to this corruption scandal is the dark money PACs. Now, this dark money PAC, the Growth and Opportunity PAC, that was involved in his primary race against John Broughton. So, obviously I was watching their primary race at the time, and people were giving me copies of mailers they were receiving. So yes, I do have Republicans who like me. They realize I'm here for everyone, not just one side. So this is a sample of some of the mailers that went out, but basically, can you hear my ducks running by? Basically, this dark money PAC put out lies about John Broughton. They call him a liberal. This is a man who calls himself a constitutionalist conservative. This is a man who ran the Donald Trump re-election or victory party, I guess they call it. This man is not a liberal. Over and over, they call him a liberal. They say that he was sued for unpaid debt for tens of thousands of dollars and had liens from the state of Ohio for unpaid taxes. Again, I was following this online, and Mr. Broughton said that they were referring to a different John Broughton. It isn't even him. This kind of influence in elections is what destroys our democracy. At the time, Mr. Lampton did say at one point on his social media that he had no idea what was happening. These mailers didn't come from him, even though on the other side of the mailers, it's a picture of him promoting him. It's hard to believe that he had no idea what was happening, because these dark money PACs were financed by the same people who were creating his campaign and financing him. So these dark money PACs, we looked it up online in FEC filings. So basically they spent $36,000 on TV ads, $9,000 on radio ads, $2,250 on digital advertising. And then with all these mailers, we couldn't find the actual cost for the mailers because they were lumped together with other candidates. So there wasn't a breakdown that we could ascertain. We're going to estimate that it's about $35,000 worth of mailers that went out. So totaling all that, it comes to $82,000 that this dark money PAC, Growth and Opportunity PAC, spent to get Brian Lampton into this seat. Who should be picking candidates for seats? Should it be dark money PACs or should it be us? Obviously, you know the answer to that. This is not good. So, Mr. Lampton has not addressed any of this. The only thing he has said is that he was shocked and saddened by the news of Larry Householder. That's all he said, shocked and saddened. And he has agreed, when I made the ask, that he's going to return the $13,000 of Householder's money. Well, as you can see by my little board here, he is in much, much deeper than that. And he needs to address all of these points straight up. So when you run for office, you do have an obligation to put yourself out there and tell people what you're all about. So not only is he not addressing any of these issues, he is not telling us anything about his vision, anything about his policies. His social media is crickets. There is nothing going on there. And, you know, if this is the level of his responsiveness right now, what's it going to be if he's elected? How is he going to be with regards to his constituents then? So, you know, there's no transparency, there's no communication, there's no accountability from him so far in this campaign. He's not invested. He has no skin in this game. And I think as voters and taxpayers in District 73, we deserve a lot better than that. Did he think he could just sit back and let the Speaker of the House elect him? And, you know, speaking of that, has the FBI reached out to him about this case yet? I think that's a really good question we should be asking him. So, you know, he did post again just a few hours ago on his Facebook page. And I will read what he says, or I'll read part of it. He says, "I'm continuing to talk to voters about my vision for Greene County and the great things we can accomplish together in the months and years ahead. As I've said before, seeking this seat has never been about Columbus politics. It's about Greene County families." So, firstly, let's talk about him talking to voters. If he's talking to voters, where is it happening? You know, we're in a pandemic. He's obviously not going around to people's houses. He's not going to festivals. He's not going out into the community. Right now, social media is the way that elected officials and candidates can talk to their constituents. It's not happening on his Facebook page. He doesn't have a Twitter or an Instagram that I'm aware of. So, where's it happening? I do know that a couple of supporters and, well, they're voters in the district, they have reached out to Mr. Lampton and he has not answered their questions. I saw them post on his page. They asked him questions like, why do you want to be my state representative? What do you think you'll accomplish if elected? And what do you think is an important issue facing us and what's your position on it? Now, those questions were asked of him over a week ago. And he did offer, I guess, to talk to one of them on the phone. She said that was not convenient for her because of her job and her small children, that she wanted it in writing. And he just ceased communication at that point. So even though he's saying right now, this morning he's talking to voters, we're not seeing it. You know, I'm a voter too. I want to hear what he is going to do for us if elected. So, you know, as far as this scam goes, I guess there's two options, right? We can say he is not telling us the truth as far as his level of awareness of what was going on with this criminal enterprise. Or we can say that he was completely clueless. And really, either option is not a good one. If we say he's clueless and that he had no idea, he just thought these people were being friendly and how generous they are to me, that is not the sort of person we need in Columbus looking out for us. He is showing a lack of political acumen and understanding. If he doesn't know how Columbus works and how money drives the political process, right? If you don't have the judgment to be able to say, hey, I'm being chosen to be a yes man in this situation, that is not the sort of person we need representing us. You know, we have some mutual friends, and every single one of them, when I've said to them, what's Brian Lampton like? Every single one of them has said he's a nice guy. And you know what? On all accounts, I'm sure he is. His photos make him look like he's a nice guy. He probably is a nice guy. But you know what? We don't need a nice guy representing us in Columbus. We need someone with political courage to stand up against what is obviously a corrupt system and advocate for the people of District 73 and Ohio. We don't need a nice guy. And you know what? We don't need to know what will happen to Brian Lampton once he gets to Columbus, because it's already happened to him. He has already been bought. It's already happened. This is not the sort of representation we need or deserve. So, you know, when are things going to change? When are they going to change? You know, I ran for this seat in 2018, as you hopefully know, and in that race, I ran against Rick Perales. Now, we had a scandal in that campaign as well. In the primary, Rick had an opponent who admitted, well, they both admitted that they had had a sexting affair together. Rick had a sexting affair with a constituent who then went ahead and ran against him to get revenge. Now, I thought that was crazy at the time. I thought that was the wildest thing, but I must admit this huge bribery scandal kind of beats that one. But anyway, that was, Rick won the primary, but that was what we were up against. We also, at the time, my ducks are very demanding. Listen to them. At the time, we had the ECOT scandal during that campaign. That was where $1 billion was stolen while the Republican Party in Columbus looked the other way. But what happened? Rick was reelected. Now, this cycle, we have a man who's been shown to be connected to the largest bribery scheme that has ever happened in Ohio. The largest bribery scheme that's ever happened in Ohio. My opponent is part of that. We have First Energy, who has now stolen, well, actually, it hasn't happened yet. We're hoping HB6 will be reversed, but basically they helped to put $1 billion of taxpayer dollars into the pockets of First Energy. This is unacceptable. This is the second Speaker of the House in a row to be questioned and taken away by the FBI. If you remember the previous one, Cliff Rosenberg, he got in trouble for accepting bribes from the payday lending industry. I know that the Republicans in my district do not think that this is the way our government should be run. If there's one thing I can tell you is that I am not going to operate in this same way. I have principles, and I believe that the people of Ohio are who should be served by the government, not the corporations who finance their campaigns. I challenge Brian Lampton to reject the use of dark money PACs for the remainder of the campaign. Let's have it one man versus one woman in this race. Let's do it ourselves. If he wants to show people that he is honorable and that he has principles, let him reject any further dark money PACs that may come into this race in November. I mean, let's face it, he is running in a district that has been Republican for decades. What further help does he actually need? Is that not enough? Is that advantage, having twice as many voters as the Democratic side? Is that not enough for him? Or am I going to be the next one smeared like John Broughton was? If John Broughton was a liberal, what am I going to be? I also would invite him to come on here on my Front Porch Friday via Zoom and talk to the people of this district about this. I will be polite. I will be fair. That is the kind of person I am, I promise. But come on and talk to the people of District 73 about how all this went down. Now, you know, I talked about judgment, how Mr. Lampton could be lacking in judgment to have become involved in this. Let's not forget what he sent out, what part of that $55,000 was. He sent out mailers aligning himself with Donald Trump. If Mr. Lampton thinks that Donald Trump is an effective and promising leader for our country, I again question his political judgment. It's not just that one, another one, and then, oh, this one, the hat. We need someone in office who will govern with empathy, someone who believes in mutual responsibility, in that I am responsible for myself, as are you, but I have an obligation to you as a citizen of Ohio, that I will make decisions when I'm in office that will not line my pocket to the detriment of you. This is serious, folks. Serious stuff here. I ask you to reach out to your friends and families across this district and let them know what is going on. We have moved past the point where we can just vote by a letter. We cannot just go down a ballot and tick a box because the letter of the party that we have always voted for is right there. We've seen what happens. We are living the result of a one-party rule in Ohio. We need balance back to restore our democracy. And that's what electing me to Columbus will do. It will help even up the scales and provide some accountability to the people in Columbus, because obviously they are out of control. All right, so that's about it from me for today, I think. Like I said, I don't want to be sitting here going on and on about my opponent's actions, but this is too serious to not address. I really hope that he steps forward and offers up something and some kind of explanation for this, and hopefully we'll get a better understanding of why he was so involved in this scheme. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention. He talks about he's not interested in Columbus politics. Well, based on this, it seems that Columbus politics is interested in him, and perhaps he doesn't understand that Columbus is where the laws are debated and made that influence our counties, our cities, our townships. If he's not interested in Columbus politics, perhaps he would be better off running for a city or a township, I'm not sure where he lives, or a school board, because Columbus dictates the laws and you have to be interested in Columbus politics in order to make the lives of the people in your district better. And that's what I'm going to go to Columbus to do. So thank you everyone for listening today. Enjoy your weekend. I'm hoping to have maybe some teachers on next week to continue the discussion on the school opening, because things are all over the place with this virus, and schools are changing their minds every time we turn around on what they're going to do, because it's not an easy decision to make, but hopefully the best result will occur, the best result for our teachers, our families, and our kids. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.